Hello. I hope you can hear me well, and I'm not too loud or too quiet. Now today I wanted to present to you a painting that I spent an endless amount of work, time, and effort on, apart from the days in between when I took breaks. This was the absolute most difficult painting I have ever done in my entire existence. So what I'm going to do is explain to you how my painting came to be and what I had to endure trying to get it done. First, I want to share something with you. Come closer. It's called Jump Scare ASMR. Now this is everything that I used here on the screen. A palette knife, white paint, 5 different brushes, a charcoal pencil, a pencil sharpener, Mod Podge, but only near the end of this, and a glass of water. But before we get too far, I want to mention what inspired me to make this painting. Now, I very much love these styles here up on the screen, but I wanted to make something that focused more on weirdcore and dreamcore with a little bit of Windows 95 vapor or just 90s vaporwave in general, which is also something I like. But the one thing that inspired this painting was this image right here. Even though this is a photo and not an actual computer painting, I still like the picture, so I wanted to create something similar with my own idea in hand. But let's finally begin and talk about day one. Now, as you can see, I had no idea what I was trying to do. You can see I was beginning to start, thought for a second, what am I doing? And then realized I needed a white paint base first, and then carried on with that. Now for a little while and for some of these shots, my hand was like directly in the camera because I wanted to do an over-the-top shot look. So for some of the time and in return, I ended up disliking some of the footage that I got. So after I waited for the 2 layers of paint to dry, I took a note card and marked out the lines where my actual art is supposed to go. But I drew like 3 different lines because I wasn't too sure how much space I was going to need. But after I got it right, I mixed up a light gray color and added 2 layers of that paint, filling in the space on the sides. after the gray was dry, I went in with more white paint in the center to sharpen up the edges. When I finished up with the center, I mixed together some black, blue, and a little bit of white paint to get a darker shade of a royal blue color. And after making sure the gray was completely dry, I went ahead and painted a bar across the top where the name and tab buttons are supposed to go. Keep in mind what I just said. So this is the end result for day 1. So pretty standard. This is pretty much just the base. I wanted to stop early because I was feeling a little bit anxious because in the beginning I really didn't know how I was going to start, but at the time it was hot and I was ready to get up and go to sleep and continue when I could, which I'll just say is day 2. So, I decided I needed some air. I checked everything. I should be alone here. But anyways, let's move on. So to start off, I recall the gray I used not being to my liking, so I decided to make it a bit lighter. This time I wanted to start off painting the background where my art is supposed to go. So I mixed up a rosy pastel pink and used that. So beautiful. I do know that I wanted to make the room look like it was at an angle, so I painted a roundish table that I do wish I would have made a bit more square, but let's not worry about that. And speed this up just a little. So finally what I did last was add in some colorful streamers on the wall. And I also gave them a little bit of depth and added some shading to them. Well, that pretty much concludes day 2. While I was doing this, I was definitely coming around to how everything was looking. But after day 3 is definitely when I took my longest break. So I think we should just move on now. So for starters, I took a note card and was trying to see if I could use my charcoal pencil to see if I could add the dark outline with it. But it wasn't really working how I hoped, so I had to use black paint instead. As I was adding the outline to the scroll bars in the corners, I was getting frustrated because, like I said, at the time it was hot, so I was sweating. And there were these gnats in the room that I could not get rid of, and I didn't know where they were coming from. Aside from that, I was noticing how curvy and bent looking the edges and the bars were. Something I've always known I needed to work on. My perception and line work is not the strongest, but I did notice that the curviness of everything makes the painting and the themes that I was going for look much more real. And when I started painting the white highlights, that's when you can notice everything just pops out at you. And it all just comes to life. This was the absolute hardest part of day 3. trying to get all the boxes to be the same size and constantly having to go over the black outline and the white highlights was such a struggle. See, I didn't have a brush small or skinny enough, so if I messed up or the lines were too thick, I would have to go over it with the gray. But if I accidentally made a line look too skinny or went over too far, I would have to add more outline or highlight until I got it looking right, which eventually I did. Coming close to the end, I was adding some finishing touches to the paint selector in the corner. And I was finally finished. Like I said, I definitely needed the long break after this, but let's not hesitate and move on to day 4. I think I'm okay now. Yeah. I think I'm fine now. I'll be okay.